listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy. Just before I was coming on to start today, I got some pretty horrible news. So I'm going to try to get through it today, and if I sound strange, that's why. I wanted to go over kind of a synopsis of September and tell you the odd things that are happening today across the planet. It's really hard to put these things in perspective. You know, when you split things apart, like light, for instance, you just won't be able to make sense of the whole. So use a systems perspective here, and it starts to make more sense because a vision of nature persists in your mind. Sunlight hitting the Earth's surface has a particular solar spectrum. That in itself is a context for any person, for any cell in your body, for any planet, for any solar system, for any universe. So it is your job to realize that context differs for every cell that we look at, for every person you see, for every situation you analyze, for every being there is, large or small. Books have an amazing ability to share knowledge. We know this. Knowledge from the author and previous readers and consumers of the information in written books. The wisdom of this universe is actually crammed into us. And good books are capable of extracting just some of the ingredients of the recipe of life. Society's current paradigm will teach you that all disease manifests from our genome within. That all world problems work in the exact same way. They are manifest because of a flaw that each of us have. But what I've learned from physics is that the process is 100% reversed. All diseases, all problems manifest from outside us. And our gene's task is to keep up temporally with the environment we are in. Light is the fastest thing universally to change time. Light stress alters time the most. As a result of that reaction, biology is altered. It's altered most where the processes are built into a cell when they can't keep up temporally or spatially. This is when diseases manifest. This is when society collapses. So be mindful of the light stresses that you are allowing your body to sense. Keep that in mind as we move on today. We will be moving forward, but keep your thoughts light on this. China has been hit by more explosions, dozens of them. At least 16 dead after renewed multiple explosions hit public buildings in southern China. A series of explosions targeting public buildings in a small city in southern China. It's injured dozens, officials said. State media says. Now, the official news agency from there said there were 15 separate blasts in one county, in that southern region again. Now, the city government of this area said the explosions also injured 13 people, interestingly enough, though later reports said dozens with the S. The blasts were yesterday between 3:15 and 5 p.m. They hit a hospital, local markets, shopping mall, a bus station, several government buildings, a jail, a township office building. According to police, the statement posted by local newspapers said the blasts were triggered by explosive devices delivered in several small mail packages. Police chief said the case is under investigation. He did not name any suspects that are under investigation right now. Photos posted online, though, show smoke in local streets, strewn debris, dust clouds in the sky, collapses of at least 2 5-story buildings. We've had 3 spectacular explosions. Colima volcano, Mexico, spewing ash and smoke 2,000 meters up into the air. 3, at least, spectacular explosions. As we speak, there are now hundreds of dead walrus in Alaska. The ecosystem up there is collapsing as we speak. As for our celestial wonders, our sun has just fired off the biggest CME since June with an impressive M7.6 class flare. Now, the majority of this plasma was sucked back into the sun in a very strange way. I posted a video earlier today so you could see it. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible what's going on. There will be extreme UV radiation from this flare. It moves so fast that it has already ionized the top of our atmosphere, caused a brief low-frequency radio blackout over South America and the Atlantic Ocean. The sun is thought to be entering its Murata minimum, also known as the prolonged sunspot minimum. That's the name for a period starting in about 1645 and continuing to about 1715, when sunspots became rare. So, as noted by solar observers of the time, a period of excessive winters hit the northern hemisphere. This last X-class flare, well, the last one that was recorded this year, was back on May the 5th, when the sun managed to squeeze out an X 2.7. Looking at the flaring, our sun is quiet, but this is going to trigger something because of a combination of events. Now, Jokum. I don't want to make light of it, because this is another mega ritual going on here. It is not an accident, and I have a picture of Hurricane Jokum. I also have a picture of Joachim and Boaz, the twin towers of Solomon's temple, for you to look at. Joachim is heading for Washington, D.C., New York, Philadelphia, and it seems that the Pope really did create some high magic here. Yesterday, something officially did open, and we'll go over why I think these events have been triggered, why it's happening now. Now, Pope Francis, again, and Joachim, or Joachim, and the Twin Towers in unity. He went to Washington, D.C., New York, Philadelphia. He left for Rome September 27th. The next day, September 28th, Joachim forms in the southern Atlantic with a target, a path of Washington, D.C., New York, Philadelphia. Did the Pope stir this up? Joachim reminds us of the two pillars, Solomon's temple, Joachim and Boaz, Joachim, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. God. And he reared up the pillars before the temple. On the one, right hand, and the other, the left. He called the name of that on the right hand, Joachim, and the name of that on the left, Boaz. That's from Chronicles 11:17. In all the languages of the Semitic stock, the letters J and Y are interchangeable. J came from Rome, when Rome became and whitened, because it was not. There's no J. But when we look at modern Arabic, because that's the closest we've got, Yaqub for Jacob. Old Hebrew, Yahweh, Jehovah. This gives us the form Yaqim, which at once reveals the enigma here. The word Yak signifies one. Termination high or hin is an intensive, which may be rendered in English as only. So Yakim resolves itself in the words only, one, or one only, or the all-embracing unity. This hurricane Joachim, is a seal on the covenant created by Pope Francis, created by September, for unity. It is the coming for all of us. This is the birth of the one world order. This is it. Whether or not these cities are wiped out by this event, we can't ignore what has led up to it. So that's why I want to go over what has led up to today. And yes, we are going to talk about the lost father and the lost mother. But we have to go back and what's happened. First, whatsoever the Lord pleased, that did he in heaven and in earth and in the seas and in all the deep places, there's a clear meaning to these events that connect us to other happenings which are occurring and have occurred recently. So I'm going to recap things I've covered pretty exhaustively so that newcomers will have the lay of the land here. It would be impossible to grasp what precedes this without this foundation. Moses Malone passed away on 9/13, on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, at the age of 60, and we've seen a repeating 60. In the last couple of days, CERN is 60. Many people have just turned 60, people that we need to pay attention to. Most of you probably are wondering what this has to do with anything. And I can tell you quite a lot. And it is my hope to convey in the following words what that is. This marks the beginning of the 10th day period, known as the Days of Awe in the Hebrew calendar. It is the period of repentance, approaching the holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur, the Feast of Atonement, which falls again September 23rd. It is connection to July 4th, the 17th Tammuz, the Golden Calf, or the CAV. As you recall from previous talks on this, Yom Kippur was closely connected to Tammuz. Tammuz is a name for an ancient god, the ancient god, the first. We'll get to that. Now for this day that Moses broke the tablets in response to the golden calf idol worship, in 2015, this day fell on the July 4th, something that occurred exactly in 1776 as well, and only happens once every 19 years. Furthermore, the Cleveland CAVs wear gold uniforms and boast the world's most idolized sports figure, LeBron, aka King James, number 23. Yes, September 23. The founder of the city of Cleveland, also named Moses Cleveland. Yom Kippur, September 23rd, this year, was the day that Moses proclaimed the Israelites had forgotten the sin of the golden calf. And our wizard turned 60. See? Anyway, the name Moses means to pull or to draw out of water, as he was pulled from the Nile by the Pharaoh's daughter as an infant. For a well-known person to pass away on this specific day, in the light of all the other recent events, is pretty darn astounding. Remember, the veil between the spiritual and the physical is down. Individuals with a strong foundation in the Word can begin to piece this together. For another layer to the particular event, I put a link to the American Pharaoh, which we've talked about, but we won't go into today. If you want to hear about that, let me know and we'll do it next week. Now, for the sake of brevity, I'll move on. Now, the reason the Israelites built that golden calf, that idol, was because they believed Moses was not going to come back. When the people saw that Moses delayed coming down the mountain, the people gathered themselves together to Aaron and said to him, "Make us gods. Who shall go before us? As for this Moses, the man brought us out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has even become of him. Moses reliably was doubted. His reliability was doubted even after he had apparently just saved these people. Ultimately, the Israelites lacked faith in their four-letter God, and in their unbelief chose to turn their hearts towards an eidolon, to make for them their own God. Now, though this might seem ridiculous through a 21st century lens, it was the appropriate distraction for a depraved human condition of that time. And again, that's why I started the way I did. Circumstance. We're not talking about a people here. We're talking about their reaction to their environment. Yeah. Since nothing goes beyond the notice of that God, I believe when overlaps like this take place, we should pay attention, because this is supposed to be the return of the king, baby. Moses Malone played a sport that boasts hundreds of millions of spectators actively, emotionally involved in this distraction. We were warned this summer that the golden calves from the city of Moses were at center stage. Prophetic declaration was, repent of your idolatry. When the 4th of July fell on that very day, Tammuz 17, which is an 8, which goes back to the 8 ancestors, which we will talk about probably in the second hour. Moses declared the golden calf, which has only happened 12 times in America's 239-year history. The message became pretty darn clear. For the Lord does nothing without revealing his secret to his servants, the prophets. Yet, people still say, what could a basketball have to do with God? Apparently these people have not looked at a basketball. Look at it again. But I say what exists that is beyond the hand of this God. Furthermore, do you really think that a sport which dominates the hearts and the minds of a generation, which exceeds an entire global population during Moses' day, by the way, would be left without power? Our merciful Heavenly Father warns before the beatdown, does he not? He controls the course of this world event. He removes kings, sets up other kings, gives wisdom to the wise, knowledge to the scholars, apparently. That's what Daniel said anyway. The lot is cast onto the lap. But as every decision is from the Lord, you should be diving into these things right now. This is the deception. This is our enemy, the enemy of the people, that they believe there is little to no meaning in events. At this core, this belief seeks to rob the power of this essential characteristic of the sovereign minds of humanity. If you are a deist, this approach would be expected. However, I think this is a grievous mistake with immense ramifications right now. What I'm often criticized for looking this deeply into things, I can attest to how this has drawn me to wonder Because these signs are all around us. Yah has not left us in the dark here. It is pretty clear there's a hand behind all these things. With what is around the corner and what he is willing to do should be confirmed deeply. If you are willing to ask, these things are not hidden. It's just a matter of looking, and they are showing the deep and the hidden things that are deep and hidden away no longer. I do warn you that your mind may not be able to process all of these things, that you will understand with certainty the separation between your mind and your body and your spirit. Just keep in mind what these things mean. It is a judgment. So in June, when the Cavs were in the finals and hundreds of millions were bowing at the altar of hero and sports worship who can't get off their asses and actually do something, this is why you have heroes and sports worship. This is why they always have blinded you with these things. They give you a little bread, a little circus, and you will sit and eat at that table. So when 4th of July rolled, and somebody called the cops on me, we needed to change our ways. The day Moses broke the tablets, to move 17, to the day he received the second set, announced forgiveness. That's September 23, as a matter of fact, was a warning. The golden calf announces the coming day of atonement. He wears number 23. We entered the days of this. We were reminded the days of this. Moses is gone. Do we cling to worthless idols, or do we change? They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy. That's what Jonah said. A nice little picture of the destruction of Jerusalem. Now, leading up to this, and we'll go over again September 23. One more time. Because there's a lot to get to on this topic. Subsequent postings, everything that I've told you about, influenced by questions and comments received about this. The Lion of Judah, the King of Kings, to him be all the glory in heaven and earth forever. Come quickly, our bright and morning star. That's from the Bible, kids. Hashtag, that ain't Jesus. The events that we have seen primarily on the 23rd, widely discussed, obviously. Most of the information can be found in the forms of videos with apocalyptic imagery and music and tugs at your soul. Wide, yes. Deep, not so much. So it's time that we seek clarity rather than emotion. And I'm compelled to address the upcoming prophetic alignments that we have just gone through, and they ain't finished yet. My brothers and sisters, this is going to be bad. And it's sobering, that you understand this information. We are the children of the day, children of the daybreak, and we cannot be caught with our pants down, especially around our ankles, as they've been so often as we've been bent over the table. As the battle lines are drawn, There's no longer a comfortable middle here, and the wheat and the tares and the sheep and the goats and the demons and the reptiles are grabbing their arms and taking their sides, and there is ever increasing excitation as we approach the climatic parting of the ways. And I'm pretty certain this ominous cloud descending as I am that the sun is going to rise tomorrow. The form it's going to take, anyone's guess. September, that month, was D-Day. And you don't even have to understand what it means on anybody's God calendar, but since every God calendar is pointing to this month, not this year though, 2017, but this is the precursor to it, and it's best that you pay attention. These events. Let's just look at September 23, why it's a big deal. This is the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. So, September 23rd, 2017, the day following the Feast of Trumpets, Rosh Hashanah. Noteworthy event on this date. 63 BC, Caesar Augustus, First Roman Empire, Emperor, is born. 487 BC, Greek dramatist is born. He wrote Medea, the Trojan Woman. It's significant here. Why it's significant? You just have to look into what the play is about. 1846, planet Neptune is discovered by a German astronomer. 1943, Benito Mussolini formed a rival fascist government in Italy. 1948, Harry Truman announces evidence of Russia's first nuclear detonation. 1957, a white mob forces 9 black students who entered Little Rock High School in Kansas to leave. 1990, PBS begins an 11-hour miniseries on the Civil War. 1990, Saddam says he will destroy Israel. Bet you're regretting stopping that shit. 1992, of over 1,000 nuclear tests performed by the U.S. since 1945, the last test ever performed on that date. Happens 92. Not ever performed, but on that date. 1999, first celebrated Bisexual Day in the United States. I didn't even know you guys had a Bisexual Day. 2001, Osama bin Laden issued a statement calling for Muslim brothers to resist the Christian-Jewish crusade led by the big crusader Bush under the flag of the cross. Yeah, it's not the first time we've seen that, my brothers. 2001, President Bush returned to the American flag to the full staff at Camp David following a period of mourning after September 11th. 2004, Hurricane Janine hit Haiti. Over 1,000 people were killed. The United States once again gets another stronghold in there and starts raping and pillaging as it normally does. 2008, the Bush administration urgency pleads with Congress to pass $700 billion bailout for the financial industry, global banking cabal. 2009, President Obama delivers his first speech to the United Nations. 2015, exactly 49 Jewish years of days from June 7, 1967, when Israel stole the Temple Mount. (2015), 266th day of the year, Pope Francis, 266th Pope, and on 9/23/2015 he visited the White House. 24th he delivered a speech by the Pontiff to the joint session of Congress. The meaning and history of Yom Kippur, why it directly relates to what's coming. It is a day in which a high priest offers a sacrifice to atone for the sins of the people. Then to the Lord said to Moses, "Be careful to celebrate this day of atonement on the 10th day of that month, 9 days after the Feast of Trumpets. You must observe it as an official day for a holy assembly. A day you must deny yourself and present special gifts to the Lord. Do not during that day, do not work, because that is the Day of Atonement, when offerings of purification are made for you, making you right with your Lord." Our Lord is bossy, is he not? Now let's go back one more step, shall we? Do you remember me talking about the Nepal earthquake and Shiva and the trident of CERN? The trident is very important because when we talk about the Mother Goddess, we are talking about the Father as well. The Cthulhu, Poseidon, Enki. Oh yes, we're going there. Because Daddy's back. CERN. Okay, CERN recently changed the particles they were using, charged up their particle accelerator, and started pounding us with an energy that we have never experienced. Now, I realize that we have entirely pucked up this planet, and we have pucked it up in an unprecedented way. In under 100 years, we have caused the devastation. There's no turning back from it, naturally. But when I go over the relationship between Mom and Dad, and even though they've been separated, I guess Daddy had to go somewhere, we gotta know what's coming, because he's back now. Daddy's back and he's pissed. Really bad. So, the exact moment that energy spikes first occurred in Switzerland, the earthquake in Nepal took place. There is a video I played for you documenting this event at the bottom of my page today. Now, I find the appearance of Shiva, same God, Hindu name for the same God. This still is Enki, God of destruction, permanently displayed at CERN, headquarters beyond coincidence here, and 5 facts related directly to CERN and Shiva and Nepal and the earthquake and the trident. Statue of Shiva in front of CERN facility. And there's pictures today. Hinduism, Shiva is the destroyer of the world. Brahma, the creator. Vishnu, the preserver. Why does CERN choose Shiva the destroyer, on a display instead of Vishnu, the preserver. We are talking about the royal three, the triune God, if you will. Mother, Father, Son, Saturn, Venus, Mars. This is in every religion. Different stories. Same thing. This is the one obvious question that no one seems to be asking, though. Why Shiva? Destroyer of the world. Why now? In Hindu thought, Shiva is said to reside in Mount Kailash in the Himalayas, around 300 miles from Kathmandu, Nepal. He is said to reside in the summit in a state of perpetual meditation. The Bhimsen Tower, adorned on its highest point with the statue of Shiva, was decimated. Close to 90% of the population of Nepal is still Hindu. In other words, they acknowledge the deity of Shiva. Nepal as a country represents the highest percentage of adherents to Hinduism anywhere in this world. The main attributes of Shiva invoke a trident and snakes and a white bull. The trident, interestingly enough, has been important as of late. Remember the Malaysian Airlines flight? Or how about the Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 shot down July 17th, 2014 over the Ukraine? Oh yeah. Ukrainian symbol or coat of arms is a trident. An ancient symbol used by the Lord of the Sea, the Beast of the Sea, the Cthulhu, the Old One, the Sleeping God, Poseidon. The trident associated with Neptune is known as the Devil's Pitchfork by occultists. I almost said a bad word. I didn't know. So the trident missiles used by the U.S., long-range ballistic missiles with nuclear capacities, are kind of dirty when you listen to the symbology here. It is defined as a three-pronged instrument or a weapon. The three represents the Trinity. You can say Satan, Antichrist, false prophet, who is back in Italy right now. But it's interesting to point out that the Antichrist in Revelation 13 is referred to as the beast out of the sea, Poseidon being the god of the sea, representing the great clear connection here. Old Testament. Eli's son performed an abomination before the Lord, using a three-pronged fork, a trident. This event very well could have the same impetus for the tridents, the satanic overtones today, the old God returning today, when the Pope said that the Lord of the earth was returning, when their prophecy in Nepal said the Lord of the earth was returning from the underground. The underground is always the waters. The ether and the waters, same thing, connected with the inside of the earth and Saturn and center of the galaxy, and Sirius too. So Lion King, we'll get into it. So, Old Testament. This event very well could have been the impetus for Trident's satanic overtones today. These sons of Eli were scoundrels, had no respect for the Lord or their duties as priests. They were favored ones, given authority. Whenever anyone offered a sacrifice, Eli's sons would send over a servant with a three-pronged fork, while the meat of the sacrificed animal was still boiling. The servant would stick the fork into the pot and demand whatever be brought up to the son, so they were eating of it. This is a part of another story which I'm going to tell you about the queen and what the king gave her as a gift. A parting gift, if you will. He had to go whatever gods do, and she stayed here, and we have messed with her, and he's not going to be pleased. Anyway, the trident, representing two major passenger plane catastrophes, as well as a symbol of the country in which one of them was shot down, is beyond coincidence here. Now take the god of destruction, Shiva. Portrayed with his weapon, the trident, you begin to see the glitches in the matrix with all these events. The powers shaping the world, these events, go way beyond a physical realm. CERN is attempting to identify dark matter, they said. Dark matter invisible to the eye, the unknown, the hidden realm. It holds matter together. They are looking at a point in history where man intends to connect with the forces that transcend our understanding of science. The earthquake in Nepal linked directly to CERN. If you consider Shiva, the god of destruction, represented in the very facility that had a spike. His weapon, the trident, brings us back to these events. Malaysian Airlines, the Ukraine. The evil which ties these together, manifesting all over this world, this unholy trinity, will offer security from this devastation to those naive enough to embrace this coming deception. We had a change on planet Earth. In the scheme of things, not so long ago, really. We have a scientist who's decided he's found the way for eternal life. 3.5 million years ago, a virus hit this planet and swept over it much like a plague. This scientist, in, stupidity that only a scientist could have, thought that it held something. Thought that it held something important and deep and mysterious. Something that changed the planet as we know it. So guess what he decided to do? Did he decide to test it? Well, yes, he did. He did test it first. But this is what he did after. He injected himself with a 3.5 million year old virus. It's making him younger, apparently. He's injected animals with it. He went outside with this virus that has been stuck in the ice for 3.5 million years. That doesn't mean it's that old. It means it's been trapped in the ice for that long. He's tested animals with it. He's tested himself with it. And he went outside with it. Echoes of the Father. Because many secret orders have an outer head, something non-corporeal, an entity, who's recognized as the order's true Grand Master, for whom the corporeal Grand Master is just a representative. Hashtag, that ain't Jesus. Now, it's similar to the concept of the patron deity. For us, we understand ordo lapsus exilis to be under the guidance, the spirit of the Cain. Later became king, queen, Cain, Khan. But with a K, it's one side of the troop. It is a king god, God king, a lion king. Hold that in thoughts, and we'll be right back, because we have to meet Mama. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy. And we are on Revolution Radio, Studio A. Good morning, everybody. TurtleIslandNews.info. Good morning to chat room. Wake Radio Group, of course. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening today. Of course, we're all listener supported, and we could absolutely use your help. So let's talk about the transfer. Then we'll go back into the stories of both of these beings, the mother, the father, the forgotten wife of Yah, believe it or not, because even that did make it into the Bible, and in every book and every story ever written about a god. And of course it would. As much as we've talked about the ancient stories, the patriarchy that we're living under now, the matriarchy that we lived under before, it's never okay when there's the separation. We need each other, like it or not. And of all the things that are going on right now to completely destroy the male, all we have is bad daddy ruling everything right now. How we arrived here. When we talk about ships, seeds, if you will, even our cells, they are not bags of water. They are more crystalline, which is liquid, as crystals are. They are not solid. They vibrate too fast to be physically solid. They feel solid, but they are not. Our cells we're told they're solid, but they are not. Traveling must be looked at like that. For long distances, must be done like that. Those cells are full of many different kinds of frequencies, sounds, energies. As they pass other beings, other planets, other galaxies, they collect those energies until they stop. Then we have to jump over to the Dogon story of creation, where the pairs, male and female, that were traveling in the egg, which is a cell, one of them left. He left early. He at first was a hero, then became demonized. He's most likely Mars. He is the Ones. That was their word for him. That is still his name, Oglala, kind of. And Og, that name is used a lot all over the world, but especially with African, with voodoo, and all of the branches of that. He is the guardian of the crossroads. He is the Lord of the earth. He is Mars. His symbol is on the Zulu shields. Still the same story. The mother came here to earth, went to the waters. When time has passed, I can't give you a date or how long it took her, and the energy of a planet comes up, she sends a signal. It's not that far out of my mind anyway, can go here, because any woman who's been pregnant, or a man who's been around when a woman's been pregnant, you start to nest when the baby's coming. I think there's even a signal sent out. Probably a signal went out when the father was called. Eventually, at one point, and we know this for a fact, this planet was female, and then something changed. When it changed, there became the largest, widest spread of life on this planet. We went from our surface just having, actually it had mushrooms, big, humongous mushrooms. Mushrooms like skyscraper mushrooms. Then came trees. Trees were the start of all male life on this planet. This is the mother, this is the father, and our need for DHA, believe it or not, that started in the oceans. That's why fish still have them. That's why they still find fish that are the longest lived. Later you get vitamin D if you live further enough south, and you get light and you have vitamin D. But first we didn't need it. This was the purple haze. This was the very thick atmosphere. We didn't get the sun. So we ate something else. Maybe not even physically consumed, as in put it in our mouths, but DHA, a precursor. Fish have it. Some people say you should eat fish oil and you get it. You don't. It's short-lived. That's a lie. You're wasting your money. Buying fish oil, waste of money. Absolute waste of money. You can't. Time it goes into the package, the little capsules, it has no power. It's gone. It's nothing. You need to eat fish. Okay, so this brought the change. Now we'll go back to some old books. I found this one on the Sacred Text website. We've used that one before several times, but I thought it was really cool because it's from the Philadelphia panel tablet. It's a magnificent myth, a charming story that involves the Mother, the Queen of Heaven, and Enki, the Lord of Wisdom. Its contents are profound, especially in our study of history and the progress of civilization. It contains several lists of divine decrees governing all cultural achievements and the gifts that were for Inanna alone. Now, according to the more or less superficial analysis of the Sumerian scribes and thinkers, and please do not send me Sitchin bullshit. He was told what to write. He was an accountant. He studied nothing else. He's a Jesuit. He did what they said. Anyway, so Sumerian is absolutely translatable. It comes from South Africa, not from Sumer. Why it got moved up north, I don't know. I have a pretty good idea why, but we'll go into that. So as early as 1911, way before Sitchin, hashtag Sitchin doesn't know shit, a fragment belonging to this story, located in the University Museum now at Philadelphia. Philadelphia tablets, inscribed, translated back then. Very large, well preserved, 6-column tablet. Only one little piece broken off. Incredible. Now this corner piece was rediscovered in 1937. Istanbul, interestingly enough. Now, these pieces, these tablets, an interesting story, because it tells of a relationship and the closeness. So, for translation, first 8 lines of the passage, in which Enki presents the arts of civilization to the goddess Inanna, and what she will be given forever, basically. And another significant verse in this passage reads like this: O name my power, O name of my power, to the bright Inanna, my daughter, I shall present the arts of woodworking, metalworking, writing, tool-making, leather-making, building, basket weaving. And Inanna took them. Inanna, queen of heaven, goddess of Iraq, is anxious to increase the welfare and prosperity of her city, to make it the center of civilization, and thus exalt her own name and fame. She therefore decides to go to Eridu, an ancient seat of Sumer, where Enki, the Lord of Wisdom, who knows the very hearts of the gods, dwells in his watery abyss, Abzu. Watery. For Enki has under his charge the divine decrees that are the foundations and fundamental to all civilizations, and if she could attain them by fair means or foul, and bring them to her beloved city, its glory and her own would be unsurpassed. So she approaches Abzu of Eridu. Enki, no doubt taken in by her charms, calls his messenger Ishmut, and then addresses him. Really interesting that this word Ishmut, spelled a couple different ways depending on where I read it, but the closest translation I have found to it means fox. Could be wolf, but it doesn't mean fox-like. It doesn't mean attractive. It doesn't mean, I don't know, it means fox. How it's used in that term, other than if we go to, I don't know. We'll have to look into it. There's a secret meaning, but some of the things that they put in this are odd, and they allude to other things. But let me just get through this, because they use a name which I had never heard before. She calls him Muan. It's spelled M-U-A-N. It sounds like a word that's only spoken in Haitian that I know of. It means beloved, and they have no translation for it, but it doesn't just mean beloved. Now, I don't know how freaky these people were. I hate to judge. But their words for sister and mother and wife and daughter are the same word. So, as we've spoken of before, whether or not they're expansive in their relationship and not putting people into a box of how they love, or they're just freaky as puck. I don't know, but when you come up with a word you've heard before, I don't know. And who this fox is that's in charge of, he's in charge of a boat too, we'll get to that. This story will go on and on, you won't even believe. So, he calls his messenger, and thus addresses him. Come, my messenger. Ishimut. Give ear to my instructions. A word I will say to thee. Take my word. The maid, all alone, has directed her step to the Abzu. Inanna, all alone, has directed her step to the Abzu. Have the maid enter the Abzu of Eridu. Have Inanna enter the Abzu of Eridu. Abzu, this watery kingdom. And it looks like Eridu means underwater. So, Enki is Poseidon? What's he doing underwater? What's she doing underwater? Why is everybody under the water? I don't know. And what does the fox say? Nothing yet. So anyway, give to her to eat barley cake with butter and honey. Pour for her cold water that freshens her heart. Give her a drink, the date wine, in the face of the lion, and the blue lotus and the honey. So he's getting her stoned a little bit. That's what blue lotus and honey is. I talked to you about the fermenting of the honey, so that's what's up here. I guess. Now make for her at the pure table, the table of heaven, speak to Inanna the words of greeting. Ishmael does exactly as bid by his master, and Inanna and Enki sit to feast and banquet. After their hearts have become happy with drink, so Ishmael is making this potion. They're drinking it. Enki says, O name of my power, O name of my power, to the pure Inanna, my daughter, I shall present ye with lordship, godship, tier, exalted, enduring, the throne of kingship. And Inanna took these gifts. O name of my power, O name of my power, to the pure Inanna, my daughter, I shall present the exalted scepter, the staffs, the exalted shrine, the shepherdship, the kingship, and pure Inanna took them. He thus presents, several at a time, over 100 divine decrees, which on the basis of cultural pattern of Sumerian civilization held at this moment, I'm not sure when. And when it was realized that this myth was described as early as perhaps 20 BC, 1000 BC, that these concepts involved were no doubt current, centuries earlier, very old, had nothing to do with Egypt, had nothing to do with what was going on there, but something quite different. And amongst the divine decrees presented by Enki to Inanna, those referring to lordship, godship, exalted, enduring crowns, a throne of kingship, an exalted scepter, a shrine, shepherdship, kingship, numerous priestly offices, truth, descent into the netherworld whenever she wanted, ascent from it, the standard, the flood, sexual intercourse, prostitution, legal tongue, vivacious tongue, art, holy cult chambers, Herodule of heaven, which I don't even know what it is, music, eldership, heroship, power, enmity, straightforwardness, the destruction of cities, lamentation, the rejoicing of the heart, the falsehood, the rebel lands, goodness, justice, the craft of a carpenter, metalworker, scribe. So he's teaching her stuff and giving her a lot. Plus, he gave to her something that's really strange. And I want to read this to you as well. It really pissed me off when I read it. So I'm going to read it to you and try to get my human conceptions out of my head. But it sounds like something else was going on too. And Enki promised her all the hair of the world. Now to me that tops the list, honestly. So let's look after our hair. Why would hair be given as gifts? And this is her domain over the human realm. From Philadelphia tablets. Interesting, isn't it? Since we've just had Jade Helm supposed to be governing the human realm, well, this is what was Inanna's from the human realm that she could sell. The hair. I know, it sounds really weird, right? But it's not that bad because we don't die when it's harvested. And let's take a look at the facts. Most people agree that mammals were one comment shy of never getting big at all. Who said that anything like us has to exist on any other planet? anyone see hair on an ET on one of their pictures? Do they have any hair? Have you seen the creatures from Signs? They too are hairless. So maybe this isn't too out of step. Your hair actually keeps forever. So it's quite the gift. It can be reprocessed. Actually, it can provide amino acids for food like soy sauce and pizza dough. Hair sops up oil at a phenomenal rate. It can be woven together as a durable cloth. It can be placed on a farm as a special fertilizer. It actually has optical properties. And I have a whole PDF file of the optical properties of hair and the hair shaft itself. It's actually pretty freaking cool what our hair could do. And should be conquered by terrifying aliens, and she would have something pretty cool to trade, right? Our mother. And left expectingly the worst, can only be cut like sheep every year. You could have it. The next one, it's kind of gross, but we've talked about this before, so don't faint. All these stories that there's something living in our sewers, that something actually harvests urine, poop. And it's slightly less pleasant than the hair thing, because we might have to come along with the poop, I don't know. That would not be a pleasant experience. It's also a pretty weird long shot. Most species produce their own excrement, don't need to harvest that of other species, so why? But it's possible that aliens take in and emit serious gases. If that's the case, they might need someone else's poop. I don't know. Why? Space is full of high-energy radiation shoots through metals. The contents of a spaceship can be shielded by high electromagnetic fields. But that raises a whole bunch of other problems here. Layers and layers of dense organic material. On the other hand, it absorbs a lot of radiation, surprisingly enough. Now, present-day space agencies, when I thought this was really weird, I'm reading this list and going, wow, this is so full of BS. Until I started to look into it, thinking, what were these gifts? Are they symbolic, or could it have been something real? But present-day agencies have considered the idea that astronauts on long-haul voyages could line the walls of their spaceship with their food on the way to wherever they're going. Line the walls with their, poop. Properly packaged, of course, on the way back. I know it's weird. Such agencies also mention that it could, with enough power, be possible to process that poop, make it edible again. Do you remember the poop burgers we saw in that article from China? I know it's gross, but I'm just thinking, find a way to make this list make sense. Now, it's then possible to feed those processed patties to the astronauts, who will then poop them out, and then it's back to the wall. I think at this point, it's easy to see why we would rather have the aliens take our hair. I'm still thinking these are aliens. I don't know. Okay, moving on. Number 8. Tooth enamel. She was given teeth. She was given our teeth. Not tusks. Not teeth of any other animals. Human teeth. It's on the list. It's number 8. So when you travel through space, you want to keep your energy down. You want to keep your visibility up. You have to do both of these with material that's either self-repairing or tough. Really, really tough. Tooth enamel is tough. So why would any creatures that are floating through the galaxy? Would it help? Well, because it glows a bright fluorescent green under UV light. I'm not saying that it's the most important thing that an alien ship would do. However, marking out the instruments with tooth enamel would be an easy way to read them, traversing the skies. So don't be surprised if aliens show up today and start pulling out your teeth. That would leave you toothless, but still alive. Hormones. There is no guarantee that life on other planets will be that different from life on Earth. There are theories, of course, that life on this planet emerged from microbiotic life that came here as debris from other planets. Debris is not the word I use, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. So that means that we could, growing from the same building blocks, perhaps exposed to similar conditions, have certain things in common, and I'm still thinking that's how the seed is spread. I do. So on this planet we harvest things like hormones for birth control from other creatures. Maybe someday the aliens will find that our human hormones prevent them from releasing their eggs into their ancestral spawning tubes or waters, or however they do. Or that they hatch on the heads of other creatures and stick tentacles down their throats, only to inject them with parasite if they're ready to make a commitment. I know, that's where my brain goes. I saw that movie. Okay, next, she was given fat. Human fat. We, as a species, have plenty. We're a little chubby. No matter what anyone thinks of it, on us, it is an energy source. Perhaps their ships are biological. There is one earthling who uses it to run his cars right now. Perhaps again the aliens have a biological makeup close to ours, and our fat is the best to use in their cosmetics. Species here have been wiped out for less. Maybe it just makes us taste yummy. Whatever reason, you could find yourself getting slimmed down in an unpleasant way. Do we know for sure what happens to the fat that is liposuctioned off? Is that fat sold? Is it sold to aliens? Does Inanna collect? Is she taking a collection still to this day? Is Inanna getting the fat? I want to know. Is she the tooth fairy? These things, this is how my mind works. It's terrible. Okay, number 5. She's been given reproductive systems. It's on the list. Look, imagine you had some useful machines, and you saw that in those useful machines there were parts that would make massive quantities of new, other useful machines. Wouldn't you want to stock up on those parts before you go home? 4. Water. Oh, wait. There's tons of water on Earth. I know you're saying that. Easy to collect everywhere. But then again, we just had a lake in California go completely dry overnight. But if you come over from Mars and your one thought is to save your dying planet, are you going back without every drop of water you can squeeze out of your annoying neighbors? No. Humans are 60 to 70 to 80, depending on how young you get them, % water. Right now there are 7.1 billion of us. That's a lot of water, and we're surprisingly portable. After they suck up all the water from the oceans and the rivers and the ice caps and the plants, they might very well go ahead and wring people out like a sponge. There is, however, a condition on this. The universe usually has a lot of water, but the largest quantities of it tend to be far away, out of the solar system, So only planets within our solar system would see this kind of thing as worthwhile. So if it turns out that that there aren't any advanced Martians or Venusians, I don't know, we might be off the hook on this one. Number 3. This has a strange word, but as far as close as I can get to it, is immortal cell lines. Our cells are mostly subject to the Hayflick limit. Hayflick limit, that's a thing. It sets a cap on how many times the cell can reproduce. Long story short, this cruelly limited cell, cell biologists have stumbled upon cancer cells from Henrietta Lacks. Her cells, called the HeLa cells. HeLa is the word they use for immortal cells. That's the closest, if I can pronounce it, like he and la. So it's interesting that it just so happens to have that same word. Now her cells kept dividing and dividing, making them perfect for use in experiments. Since then, scientists have found ways to induce immortality in cell lines for humans. Aliens might not be subject to the same kind of limits that human cells are. There may be no way to induce that kind of immortality, or they may use something else. They may serve the purpose that guiding animal cells did, like HeLa cells that were found, even if they know perfectly well that they will work for them. There's a reason why the HeLa and other immortal cell lines in laboratories are all over the world, and why that idiot just injected himself and he's infecting us all with whatever the heck is in that one. But they're vital to biological research, so they'd be vital to any species that wanted human biological tools, or like we use those blue shellfish to put in cosmetics, and I don't know, who knows what they use them for. Arms, it's on the list. Who knows what kind of things will come over to Earth through the barren wasteland of space, right? It's likely that if they're mechanically apt, they will manage to make it to Earth. But then again, who knows what they've transcended in order to even make that journey. The human hand, however, has managed to paint masterpieces, done the lifting to build cathedrals, carefully put together machines that in turn put together more machines. It's actually an amazingly good little mechanical object, our hands. And though it takes some time to get the hang of, it has some pretty cool flexibility and dexterity and strength once you get the hang of it. So go ahead, try not to think of alien ships or homes or lined with helpful human arms. Don't think about it. Here's the last on Anana's list of gifts. Other than what's under delicacies, which I will read next. Human gifts to Anana. Brains. Oh, like I was going to pick something else, right? There are a lot of good teeth out there. There's a lot of fat, there's a lot of poop, there's a lot of hair in the animal kingdom, but the human brain is, not to be speciesist about it, but the state-of-the-art brain on the planet because of the DHA. We could argue that some of the water creatures are better, dolphins for example, but you want to be out of the water, you need this. Now, able to maintain long-term networks, able to adapt them when they're destroyed, able to make new cells to focus and learn from anything, almost anything, with a capacity for symbolic, linguistic thought that isn't matched anywhere else in the animal kingdom. This is the stuff right there. We talk a lot about training computers to learn or think, like brains. What if the aliens could actually make it to Earth, have given that up a long time ago, taught brains to work like computers, and did the opposite? Because the more I study, I'm finding the opposite is almost always true. If that was the case, that each brain they picked up throughout the universe is the equivalent of picking up whole new parts with new functions, new specifications that are strategic for the area in which you've landed. Since the human brain has a lot of different features, but it also pretty adaptable to new situations with, a little training and reinforcement. Reinforcement, I suggest, would be the rod, because we're obviously not learning well with the carrot. But if aliens are going to focus on humans at all, they'll focus on us for our brains. Human minds might be able to travel the universe more extensively as part of the alien spaceships than our own bodies. All things considered, I prefer if they just come for our hair. But I don't know if we get that choice. I know it's weird. Now, delicacies. The delicacies are problematic. And I wouldn't even read them because it seems far too strange. Except humans are eating them. Now, it's hard to move away from brains because there are humans who eat brains as a delicacy here on this earth right now. Monkey brains, for instance, is a dish that looks like quite a murder scene. Captured monkey is first forcibly pulled to the dining table. The monkey is held tightly with hoops over its legs. One of the diners uses a hammer to knock hard enough to actually create a hole in the live monkey's head. Its cracked skull opens from its head, and the diners use an iron rod to extract the monkey's brain. The monkey usually screams before dying at the dinner table. Some of the more aggressive and hungry diners may actually use spoons to scrape through the monkey's brain, eating in a greedy manner as though they have not eaten in a long time. Diners continue to eat the raw brain completely, with their hands and their fingers covered with smelly blood. Others prefer to dip the raw brain into a traditional herb soup in order to add the aroma while eating. Personally, I can't understand how this gets fun. But brains being listed as a gift and a delicacy implies girlfriend was eating them. Weird? Or no? Now, we can't talk about that without going into the other stuff that we absolutely know people are eating here. A couple years ago, there was some very strange articles out, and everyone said, no, that's crap. Doesn't happen. In Anana's list, placenta and fetuses. Now, I would just completely go over and away from them, but placenta are eaten here. Contrary to popular belief and what we've been told that no one's ever done that, that is BS, because there's a 10,000-year-old document from China who says they absolutely recommend the eating of fetus and placenta to make a tonic. And the baby herbal soup, we eat eggs, don't we? It's only gross to us because we're human. But I'm sure the chicken doesn't like her eggs stolen. Horrifying. Coolest, most disgusting delicacy ever, but it's actually been proven that those fake pictures came from something of that baby soup in China. Those are actually being found. I put up an article 2 days ago from Thailand where they found over 100,000 fetal parts trying to be shipped there. So somebody's buying them and still eating them. So as much as this stuff seems strange and absolutely improbable, it looks like could have happened. Now, we jump back to the reading. Pure Nana took these gifts. He thus presents, several at a time, these decrees. Amongst them, what I've told you about. She is only too happy to accept the gifts offered by her drunken Enki. She takes them, loads them onto her boat of heaven, and makes off for her home with her list and her precious cargo. After the effects of the banquet have worn off, Enki noticed that the fine decrees were gone from their usual place. He turns to Ishmud, later informs him that Enki himself, presented them to his daughter, Inanna. He forgot. The upset Enki greatly rules. He's really upset. He decides to prevent the boat of heaven from reaching land at all. He therefore dispatches his messenger, Ishmud, the fox, together with a group of sea monsters that he's commanding, to follow Inanna and her boat to the first of 7 stopping stations that are situated between Abzu and Iraq. Here the sea monsters are to seize the boat of heaven from Inanna. Herself, however, must be permitted to continue on her journey afoot. He doesn't kill her, but he makes her get off the boat, leave her stuff, make her walk. So, passage covering the instructions. Conversation with Inanna, who reproaches her father, undoubtedly down to a classic poetic gem. She freaks right out. Ishmud does as he's told, overturns her boat. She's freaking out. O my queen, thy father has sent me. O Inanna, thy father has sent thee. Thy father exulted in his speech, Enki exulted in its utterance. His great word are not to go unheeded. She answers him, my father, what he has spoken to thee, that you will answer now. And of course the translation is rough. My king has spoken to me that I shall take the boat of heaven, bring it back to him. She says, did he say when? It's longer. It goes on for about 2 pages. But she tries to outfox this fox, who laughs pretty much in her face. Ishmud had the sea monster seize the boat. He wasn't buying it, but does help her to get home. That the messenger has favorable words, carrier of the true words, and he lets her keep the delicacies and the human gifts. The other stuff in the kingship and the stuff that she's been taught, she gets to keep. It's strange, isn't it? So Enki sends Ishmud, accompanied by various sea monsters, to go get the boat of heaven again, because for some reason, somehow, and it's unclear, because part of this tablet was, I guess, just old. She stole the boat again, and takes more of the stuff. But finally, her and her boat arrive safe. There's more. She's partying, and in the end, everyone makes up, and she gets to keep some of the stuff. She gets to keep the treats and the human body parts, but she has to give up the kingship of the earth. We'll continue with the Queen of Heaven, who is pretty freaky, and so is her daddy, next week. Bye for now, everyone.